describe yourself in 3 words as a person, not as a character.
um, Erratic and emotional, and let's go with secure. As weird as those three things go together.
What's the meanest thing you've ever said to
Uh, Probably a couple of days ago, I told my 5 year old I didn't want to see her. Like while I was yelling at her. It's like, I don't want to see you right now. Probably the meanest thing I've ever said in my entire life. Like, I don't think I've ever felt more like a piece of shit after I said that than I ever have in my dealings with adults ever.
someone? I like that. What is the sneakiest or the most morally questionable thing you've ever done?
That's actually pretty easy. When I was 22, yeah, I was 22. I was involved in a cat kidnapping. That's the best term for it. In conjunction with a friend of mine who was seeking revenge on a roommate, I helped him kidnap a cat and released it elsewhere in the city, like far away from our apartment. And it was the kind of thing where it was the roommate's cat, and it was the type of thing where at the time it seemed like a totally logical, reasonable exacting of revenge on this person, but as years went by, it was the kind of thing where the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, that's really fucked up. That like we did that to that guy, but yeah, it was the kind of thing where it it seemed like a totally rational response at the time, but then once we did it, it was that thing where I was like, oh my god, we just fuck with this guy's like I don't give a fuck about cats or you know any pet that isn't a dog, really. And this guy fucking loved his cat, and we robbed him of that. And it was really shitty. It really was. Like at the time, it was the kind of thing where afterwards, I legitimately thought like, we really fucked with this guy's life. But at the time, that was the whole point. Like we were supposed to be fucking with his life. So it seemed reasonable at the time, but then afterwards, it was that thing where it's like, right, but dude, that was an actual cat that now has no idea where he is and is on the other side of the city. So, yeah, that's probably the most morally questionable thing that I've done, because I've totally done the like shoplifting, like moral gray areas where you do things and you assume that the other party doesn't really care. I've done that plenty. But in terms of doing things where you know, like, this person's gonna really care what you do right now, that's the one thing that I've done where I was like, well, fuck that guy. Like, that guy was an asshole. So, you can go ahead and do it. But then afterwards, I was all like, oh, but dude.
But you never found out that you took the cat.
Oh, no. No, 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 no. That was, that, I've had this now, I think 3 times in my life where I've done things that while they were being done or in the aftermath of their doing, that the people involved have said, okay, we can never tell anyone that we did this. And that was one of them where uh, he and I agreed, like, we don't tell anybody that we did this. And we stuck to that. Like, this was probably yeah, I would say 10 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. Um, and other than my wife, you are the first ones to hear about the cat incident.
Wow.
But other than that, it's the kind of thing where the other things that I'm talking about, specifically, um, I once destroyed a nature trail, which if that makes any sense, if
The
you know
whole
what it.
trail?
Well, no, it was a nature trail where like at each point on the trail there was like instructions on what you were supposed to do at each point of the nature trail. Like if it was a running wheel, like here's how you use the running wheel, or here's how you use the pull-up bar. And it was at this middle school that I went to where I got bullied all the time, so I had a big vendetta against the middle school. Makes no sense. But my friends and I, we had a potato gun. So instead of loading the potato gun with potatoes, we loaded it with rocks, and we shot at the nature trail signs and destroyed them. And it was the kind of thing where we were in 8th grade when this happened. And in 8th grade, it's the kind of thing where it's pretty involved in terms of the way communication is disseminated, in that if you tell one middle schooler that you did some like against the rules type of thing, then everybody's gonna know about it. So me and my friend Josh and my brother, we made a pact. We would never tell anyone what we had done that day. And so we did it, and then there was like an announcement in the school bulletin of like anyone with any information regarding the destruction of the nature trail signs, there's a $200 reward. And it was the thing where we're all like, oh my god, we're like famous, like we did something that's like in the school announcements, but none of us ever said anything. And it was one of those instances of solidarity where it was like we all knew about this crime but no one else did, so we held on to it. And it's very similar to the cat incident, probably because it also involved Josh, the friend I was talking about previously, where we all agreed that we would never tell anyone, like ever, about that incident. And as want as adolescents are to, to share their crimes with other people, we were really good about not telling anybody about it. And we got to that point where we got away scot-free. Like for the nature trail incident, we never got caught. It was the kind of thing where we made it through middle school, high school, no one ever knew who did it. If they want to check this video, it was us. We totally did it, and you can sue us now. But it was the kind of thing where at the time we never got caught for it. And same with the cat, Russ. If you're watching this and you want to know what happened to your cat, we kidnapped it and let it loose on the east side of Grand Rapids. So it's probably still there at some point, roaming around. But those are the things that like still stick with me in terms of we did something we knew was shitty, but we never got caught for it. So we can assume that detached responsibility of like, well, yeah, I was there, but I really do it, so it's all okay. But we really did it, and we're kind of pieces of shit for doing it. But yeah, but that's what.
That works. I said cheers.
Oh, okay.
Those were pretty morally questionable.
Believe me, I know.
How would you define happiness in your own terms?
Happiness in my own terms would be the moment that, and I've had a few of these moments recently with my kids where they seem like really good, decent people. Like I feel like I've succeeded in teaching them to be like not pieces of shit, like not the types of people that I fucking hate like every day. And I feel like if I can get to that point, if I can get to the point where they are decent human beings, and I don't even mean like good human beings. Like, I just mean decent. Like, if they do please and thank you and don't treat people like shit, then I feel like I have succeeded, and that ultimately will make me the most happy. If I can get my kids to be good people, like be the type of people that other people look at and go, "Oh no, Bella's like a good person." That's where I feel like, okay, that's the ultimate. Like when I see my kids do things that are smart, I am proud and I feel good that they're smart kids. But when I see them be like good and decent, that's when I feel like the most happy. That's when I feel like, oh my god, like I actually like hit that next level of they're good people, in that there are tons of people out there that can walk the walk, like do the please and thank you and whatever, but it's the going above and beyond to like choose to be a good person where most people miss it. And every once in a while my kids hit it, and it's this thing where I'm like, oh my god, like I succeeded. I actually did the thing that I wish everybody else did, and it it's transcendent in the way that you don't know what being a human is until you've watched your offspring mimic the things that you do in a good way. Where it's like, I've seen my kids be pieces of shit because they watch me and they do horrible things that they have seen acted out before. But it's when they act in a way that is admirable that I go, okay, well, you couldn't have learned that from me. So you're just a good person. Like, you're just a decent human being all on your own. And that, more than anything, makes me happy. Where I feel like, okay, then I didn't create another piece of shit. Like, everybody sucks. Like, everybody's awful and a terrible human being. And I feel like everybody that has a kid, you're just adding to that. So when I see my kids act like me, I'm all like, oh my god, I'm that piece of shit. I'm the guy that just added to all the shit that is life. But when I see my kids be amazing and awful, that's when I'm like, oh my god, I did it. I did it. I beat the system. I beat the odds, and my kids are better than I am, and they're the next generation. So if I got them equipped to be decent human beings, then I succeeded. Like, I did good, even though it's totally on them. Like, it's never on me. But I did it, and there's nothing more rewarding or like makes you want to keep going than seeing somebody following the example of what is ultimately a piece of shit be a decent human being, where it's like, okay, so through all my bullshit, you managed to like hold on to those little nuggets of decency and parlayed them into an actual personality. And that's insane. That's insane to the way that as a non-parent, like if you don't have kids, you cannot conceive of how amazing it is to see a new life develop the skills to be a decent human being, because of the fact that all you see every day are pieces of shit. And then all of a sudden this like perfect human comes along and is all like, I'm gonna do good listening, or I'm gonna be polite just because, where she has no benefit from being a good person, but she does it anyway. And that's inspiring. It's inspiring in the way that like I want to keep going, because I see that she can be good just on her own, like with no motivation. And that's impressive. And
Happy.
yeah,
Happy.
yeah.
Yeah. What do you think the series is missing?
Depth. More than anything, like I very much say this as a arrogant writer, like somebody who's written for years, in that Eamon, we we have to see from Eamon that he really does love his wife, which is it's contrary to the way that he behaves. But every fucking piece of shit guy that beats his wife loves his wife. He really does. And I know it's fucked up and it's hard to understand, but he really does. He legitimately loves his wife, even though he beats her. And she, even though she's getting beaten, loves that man. She really does, like, legitimately loves that man. And Ro loves his parents, even though they both treat him like shit. He loves both of them to an insane amount, in the way that all of us love our parents, no matter their, like, shortcomings or faults. We love them despite those faults. And in the same way that, like, my character Scout is this very one-dimensional cad, like, he's very much a typical guy, but even those typical guys have depth. Like, as much as I'm reticent to admit that guys like that do have an emotional depth, they really do. Like, the guys that you see from the outside that seem like pieces of shit, they're real people. Like, they do have depth. It's just finding that depth that's difficult, especially if you're from the outside. Especially if you are the type of person that views them as an outsider, where you don't have the frame of reference to place their actions, but given that frame of reference, their actions are completely reasonable. But you have to give them that depth. Like, you have to make them those three-dimensional characters, whereas at this point, most of the characters are either one or two-dimensional. And I don't feel like that's honest. Like, I feel like if you're going to be honest to the characters, you have to make them three-dimensional. You have to make them the type of people where their faults are understandable, but also easily surmountable. Like, they have to be the type of things where you and I would be able to get past them, but they can't. And you need to show why they can't, or else they just become caricatures. And that's not the point of story. We're, as storytellers, we're supposed to show people why this abusive, drunk, overly religious asshole is still a human being. Because I can tell you this from experience. That guy is a human being. Like, that guy is real. And he is a piece of shit. He is that firm in his belief. Like, he's unwavering. And there's nothing you can say that's going to change his course. But that doesn't mean that he's not overflowing with love for these people in his life. And I know that that's, like, contra to logic, but that's life. Is most of the time, the people that are the worst at showing their love are the people that love the most. And that's the thing that's missing. And I don't know if it's that Enid and Scott haven't had those situations in their life, or it's that they're too afraid to show them. But it's the kind of thing where if you want to be true, and that's the best way to write anything, is to be honest. If you want to be true, you have to show these people as being real human beings. So Debbie, I think it's Debbie, the mom, she doesn't just stay with this guy because she's so pathetic and weak that she can't leave him. She stays with him because she loves him. She loves him in the way that she loved him back when they were like 15 or 16 or whenever they got together. And there's still this glimmer, this glimpse of this man that she fell in love with. In the same way that her son, no matter how much he gets away from their religion, is still her son and always will be. And that primarily is her motivation, is that this is her very vulnerable, very scared son that she's trying to protect. But if you don't show that in the writing, then no one in the audience is going to know that.
So you have to write those things into the script, because we actors, and I don't count myself in that group, but actors in general, we're not that good. Like, we need that guidance of, this is what's in the script and this is how you play it. And especially if you're dealing with amateur actors, you gotta write the shit out of your material to where they can't stumble and fall. Like, you have to literally breadcrumb it to, this is how this character makes sense. And there is a place, like a grindhouse, like gritty place where you can do caricatures like this and it makes sense and works, but this isn't it. This is the type of series where you need to be as honest as you can, and either through ignorance or willful ignorance, you're not writing it that way. That these characters need to be more real and human than you're making them. And I know the predilection toward making them caricatures because you view them as caricatures, but they're not. Like, these are real people, and that's how you should be writing them. So it's this thing where I feel like broad strokes, like melody, tempo, timing, all those things, perfect. Like, everything's good. It's just the little notes, the little bits that need to be refined to make it more of a symphony and not so much of a one-off. Because it's a series, so it should be a symphony. Like, this should be a grand offering, but instead it's more of a, like, pop music-y, like, we'll give you the broad strokes and you can fill in the rest, where don't trust your audience that much. Make them work a little harder for what they're seeing, because they're all pretty stupid. It's horrible. But yeah.
Alright. If this series were a competition, who would you ally with? If it was a competition.
If it was a competition, probably Bridget.
Sorry.
That's okay. Probably Bridget, because of the fact that I'm very bad with that type of thing. She seems to be very equipped with it, in terms of, if this were a reality show competition, I would be voted off, like, immediately. But Bridget would probably make it pretty far. So I feel like if we...
Do you think you would get voted off because you're really good, or do you think you'd be voted off because you're sneaky?
No, no, I guess probably more the former. I feel like I would probably be voted off because I was threatening, not I would be voted off because I would be detrimental. Like, I feel like either I would be pulled into some type of alliance, or people would ally to vote me out in the way that, I definitely don't think I'm the weakest link, but I'm probably not the strongest. So either the strongest link would try to use me, or I would be voted off because I wasn't useful. So.
Who do you think is the best reader out there, or the best performer right now?
Well, it was James Earl Jones Jr., but at this point...
I mean, in the other room.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
At this point, I'd probably say just straight up reader would be Debbie. I'm so sorry, I don't know your name for reals, but whoever's playing the part of Debbie, I feel like she's got the best grasp on the material and just cold reading in general. But yeah, probably Debbie.
Who would you name as the worst reader performer?
What's his name? The the Hispanic kid that plays
Juan?
yeah, Juan, thank you. Where I don't know if it's a reading issue, like he can't get the words in his head, but it's that thing where this is probably more as a director. I recognize in him that if he had the script for like a week and a half, he'd probably be perfect. But reading it cold, it's very obvious he's reading it cold. Where stumbling and mixing up your words is better than doing the thing of like, hey, what are you doing here? And I feel like that he does that more than other readers, actors, whatever you call it.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Cool. So if you were a casting director and you had to knock someone out today, would it be Juan?
No. No. Honestly, if I had to knock someone out today, I would say whoever is reading Aubrey and Danny, in the way that she doesn't fit the part, she doesn't fit the material, she's not a great reader, and if I were casting, I wouldn't cast her as the part. So I feel like for the project, I would keep her around only to do the like extemporaneous parts. I wouldn't keep her around to do anything like principal, in the way that, you know, she doesn't bring anything to the table that I don't feel like you could get from another actress, which is kind of critical.
Cool. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you so much.